Hey guys, this is a surprise I told you about last week, taking on the ultimate book and movie triple dog dare. Before we get into Salo, also known as 120 Days of Sodom, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell to help me keep this channel alive. Alright, let's begin with the brains behind this outfit, the Marquis de Sade. His own name is the root word for sadism and sadistic, meaning taking pleasure in brutality. And this, Marquis de Sade was a French aristocrat, before the pre-revolutionary times, who was well known to be a womanizer, a pedophile, and an alleged serial killer, since there were human remains found on his property following reports of missing persons, but he was never convicted of those crimes. He was thrown in jail repeatedly, and he wrote this gem in 1875 while serving hard time in the Bastille, the real-life dungeon. It was lost and then found, published and sold with the intent by de Sade's several times great-grandchildren to use the proceeds to clean up the de Sade name by investing it in more wholesome pursuits, such as wineries and gourmet food, and to this day it's still considered a classic. Alright, the reading of the book left me with some impressions other than being grossed out and in search of eye bleach. The way he describes these four libertines, in addition to his criminal life and being stuck in the Bastille at the time, left me with a feeling that this guy just didn't want to write pornography. He also hated authority figures, and his description of these four authority figures, a bishop, a judge, a banker, a duke, a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker, just kidding, suggest complete mockery and insolence of authority figures. So this kind of reads like a literary middle finger to authority. He describes them as ugly with appalling preferences. They rope in a bunch of ugly and disfigured retired prostitutes to assist them in procuring their victims and facilitating their fantasies and desires. There is detailed description of the libertines and their hired help, not much description of their victims. So it's easy to lose track of who is who, and there is no description of how they reacted to what was done to them. The story dehumanizes the victims. Alright, now the first 28 days of this 120 days takes up about 300 pages of this 397-page story that kind of doesn't have an ending. It defaults after that 397th page as, when de Sade was let out of the Bastille and lost his manuscript. Alright, the first week is just kinky group acts forced upon the victims, and by the end of that week they're all peeing on each other. That's in the movie. The second week starts with, and this little bit of the book, I have to admit, it cracked me up a little because of the person's reaction. Anyway, the second week starts with one girl breaking wind in the bishop's general direction, and it excites him so much that he has his harem's diet adjusted accordingly. The rest of that month is spent with them all getting shit-faced together in the most literal sense, often taking it directly from the source. And I am just speaking as politely as I can about that. The rest of that month is spent, actually, after that first month, they get serious with the pain inflictions with whips, red-hot pokers, almost boiling water, and then they start forcing incestuous acts. After that, all bets are off, and they just let the dog off the leash with the most demented cruelty imaginable. That makes the Spanish Inquisition seem like 50 Shades of Grey. And no, I'm not going there. It's just not my thing. Alright, there is flaying, flogging, tooth pulling, eye gouging, tongue severing, burning, disemboweling, bestiality, followed by the sexual abuse of what is conceived in those moments. Fireworks set off in unmentionable areas, escalating to being strapped to a rocket, kind of like Wile E. Coyote. There's an instance of, orifices packed with gunpowder and lit up so they go boom, like in the Itchy and Scratchy show on The Simpsons. There is molten lead down the throat. Extreme cruelty to pregnant women and the babies within. I'm just not going to say what it is because certain words, I will not let them out of my mouth. That's just me. There's crushing and a great finale of living rats and snakes sewn up inside living people and tearing their way back out. That's the book. After reading this nightmare fuel, I dreaded watching the movie. Mostly because of what I had read on various movie blogs and hearsay about how it was so gross and disturbing that when it was released in 1975, moviegoers were given vomit bags. I'm going to level with you guys. If you watched the Saw franchise, the Hostel trilogy, and all of Game of Thrones, you may find Salo, also known as 120 Days of Sodom, as underwhelming as I did. This movie is easily a 99.99999% watering down of this book when it comes to content. And the time and place is very different. Instead of pre-revolution France, it is post-war Italy, and the four libertines want a last hurrah before life really sucks for them since Italy lost in World War II. The retelling of the most scandalous libertine activities these retirees were subject to might sound a lot more scandalous and salacious in its original Italian, but in dubbed over English it just sounds very silly. The peeing and taking dumps for a feast is definitely taken from the book and looks very fake. We can all tell that's not shit, it's fudge nut brownies. The walking of the victims like dogs is not in the book, and it's also very silly. The finale of cruelty from the book, taken in tiny snippets into the movie with what could be managed with makeup and special effects available in 1975, and looks very fake, especially with the complete general lack of reaction from the victims. And to be honest, I think the most disturbing part of Salo is seeing the creepy old bats in hot pants. And there we have it, 120 Days of Sodom, book and movie covered. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment and smash that like button to help me, track down that sneaky YouTube algorithm and be able to grow and monetize. And I will see you back next week for War of the Worlds.